Hey everybody, it's Kyle. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be showing off my signed books. I actually have quite a few signed books, and some of them have like fun little stories. I'm calling out my friend Library of a Viking right now, who always posts on Instagram his signed books, and he just like wanders into shops and has some sort of sixth sense and finds out that there's a signed book in a shop that he gets for like $2. Anyway, I'm calling him out. A long time ago, I told him that I have more signed books than him. And I was kind of joking, but I also kind of wasn't, so it's war, Viking. Okay, so I actually filmed this video a long time ago, as evidenced by the fact that my setup has changed and my hair is way shorter. I posted it before Viking had done his bookshelf tour where he has over 80 signed books, so congratulations, he wins. But I'm going to leave that in there just because I think it's funny. But also, I mean, graded on a curve, because this dude just walks into bookshelves and he just finds things everywhere. Like, I don't know what it is about the UK where just every signed edition in the world is just on any bookshelf. You just walk into any bookstore and they're like, hello, have a free signed book. It's outrageous. Where are you guys getting all the signed books from over there in the UK? I feel like graded on a curve, I'm doing pretty good. I feel like I win overall. But I mean, regardless, it's all in good fun, so yeah. Okay, so the first portion of the signed books that I'm going to show you is technically not a signed book, but it kind of is, which is why I'm starting with it. It's like half and half. I got Dreams of the Dying by Nicholas Liaotsu. I think that's how you say his last name. If not, I'm really sorry. This hardcover edition is super, super gorgeous, and I really wanted a hardcover. It has all of these nice illustrations in the back, and like there's another one. Like, the production value of the book is just very high. And I reached out to Nicholas, and he was kind enough to send me a copy, but the shipping costs from overseas would have been insane to get a signed copy sent to me. So what he did instead was he did a dedication page, which I thought was pretty cool. So it's to me, and then it's, I assume, some of the language in the book. But so it's not technically signed, but it's, I guess, a dedicated copy to me, which, as far as I'm concerned, is almost the same thing. But yeah, I can't wait to get into this book. I've heard really good things. Patrick really liked it. Philip Chase really liked it. And it just seems like something I would really like psychological horror, fantasy. Sounds fantastic. Next couple I just picked up in the store when they came out. There was usually a couple signed copies, and I either pre-ordered them to get them, or I got lucky. There was one that was a draw. So I'm just going to go through these ones quicker because the stories behind them aren't as exciting. So the first is Stephen Fry's Mythos, about the Greek myths retold. I read this book. I really liked it. I listened to it on audio, though, and Stephen Fry is a brilliant audio narrator. And if you want to find out more about the Greek myths, this is a really good book. We have Margaret Atwood's The Testaments. Again, same thing. Picked up on release of the paperback. It was signed in store. So yeah, it's cool to have a Margaret Atwood signed book, because the chances of getting one of those is very slim. Also, for these that aren't dedicated or have anything special about them, I'm not going to show you the signature. It's just, they're all squiggles. All signatures are squiggles. Just trust me, I'm not going to lead you astray. They are all autographed. And so, next book that I got is Talking with Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell. I listened to this book on audio, and I really, really liked it. There was 20 signed copies available at my local bookstore, and they did like a raffle or whatever, and I won one of them. So yeah, see, I'll show you this one. Squiggles. The squiggles are from the guy. See, autographed copy. So, but yeah, Malcolm Gladwell is a really good nonfiction writer that I really like, and I've read, I think, all of his books, and this is maybe my second favorite after Outliers, so I was stoked to get a signed copy. The next book I have is The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. This was a Barnes & Noble exclusive that my friend sent me. I was pretty stoked for this one because S.E. Hinton is very old, and I assume she doesn't really sign anymore. To get this for the 50th anniversary edition is pretty cool. And The Outsiders is one of my favorite books growing up. I read this like 4 or 5 times, maybe even more. It's probably my favorite of the books I read when I was really young, so this one was really cool to get. Another Barnes & Noble exclusive one was Flea's autobiography, Acid for the Children. Again, pre-ordered it online from Barnes & Noble. Nothing really to talk about with that, except that I really like Flea and Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I was just really excited to be able to get this. Okay, next I have Cytonic by Brandon Sanderson. This is the 3rd book in the Skyward series, and I did the pre-order for this one too. This one's cool though. It has this little stamp from the release, and it's numbered, so it's number 1191, and yeah, Brandon Sanderson. So I haven't started the Skyward series yet, but I'm excited to have signed books by Brandon, who's one of my favorite authors, and he's probably going to slow down signing now that he is just exploding in popularity with every release. and so the chances of actually attending a signing are pretty slim, so I'll take what I can get at this point. The next book I got is one that I just got sent to me this week by my friend. It is Bob Odenkirk's new memoir, comedy drama. Bob Odenkirk is one of my favorite actors. I actually have been in a movie with him and hung out on set with him all day once. And my wife and I, during that same month, went out to a comedy club for her birthday. And Bob Odenkirk and Christopher Lloyd were sitting like in the back. And when they left, I went out and like asked Bob Odenkirk for a picture, and he was really cool, and I got a picture with him. If I find it, I'll link it up here, and if not, this part of the video just won't appear. But yeah, so Bob Odenkirk, I think, is a very nice guy. I've heard a lot of great stories about him from being on set, and I obviously love all of his work. Better Call Saul is one of my favorite shows. Breaking Bad, Mr. Show, all of that. So I was really excited to get a signed copy of this. Thank you so much to my friend Morgan, who went and bought this for me. Really appreciated it. All right, next we have The Dragon Republic and The Burning God by R.F. Kuang. For those who are unaware, you can get signed, personalized copies of R.F. Kuang's books if you order through the Harvard website and then say that you want it personalized by her, because I think she goes to the store fairly often. So yeah, I got these personalized. It says to Kyle there. And yeah, I got these sent to me. The only downside is that Harvard doesn't ship internationally, so I had to send it to my friend in the States, and then he had to send it to me, which is a headache. But hey, I have them now, so I really enjoyed the first two books, especially The Dragon Republic. I really liked, so I'm excited to finally conclude the trilogy. I've heard mixed things about The Burning God, which is why I have waited so long to finish it, but hopefully I will end up liking it. This is one of those times where I would like to be on the more hot take side of things, because I think most of the people I know didn't really like the ending. Okay, next I have This Is Your Brain on Music and Successful Aging by Daniel Levitin. I really like Daniel Levitin. He mixes a lot of things that I find to be very interesting, which is that he is a musician and he's studied music and he's released music, but he's also a neuroscientist, and so he talks a lot about how those two things interact. Successful Aging is about getting older positively and stuff. It was the new book that he was promoting when he came to our city. My wife and I went to the talk and got to meet him, and you had to buy Successful Aging in order to attend the event. It's not that I wouldn't read this book, but it doesn't seem like I'm the intended audience. But this is a book that I already own, so that's why I got it signed by him. And then yeah, so yeah, it's personalized. It's a nice signature, and this one's personalized to my wife. But my wife married me, so her possessions are my possessions. So this is my signed book, even if it says to somebody else. This next book was near the bottom of the stack. It should have been higher because I should have led with it, because this is one of my favorite ones. And this is the leather-bound edition of Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. Now this book is just absolutely incredible. Look, I opened right up to an illustration. These illustrations are gorgeous. Some of the text, oh, here's another one. Some of the text in this book is purple. This is the cover. And here's the nice spine. I'm in love with this edition. Man, this is so cool. I could look at these pictures all day. This is so cool. And then Brandon Sanderson right here. I really like Warbreaker. I feel like it's an underrated book of his. I want to get the Stormlight Archive and Mistborn and the Leatherbound at some point too, but Warbreaker's a standalone, so it won't bother me as much being alone on the shelf as it would if I just had, the Hero of Ages or whatever. So yeah, when I get money, I'm just going to buy like the whole Mistborn trilogy when I can, or something like that. But yeah, these leatherbounds are absolutely worth it. If you're considering buying them, I absolutely recommend them. This is this is probably my favorite book in my entire book collection. The next one is Lewis Black's Nothing Sacred. Lewis Black is a comedian. He happens to be my favorite living comedian. He really influenced my life in a very positive way. When I was in high school, I would just sit and listen to his comedy routines in one earphone while in class. I vividly remember sitting in science class and me and my friend just listening to a Lewis Black album and just laughing back, and then our teacher would get mad at us, but we would just keep listening to him. I just love Lewis's wisdom and how he channels his anger into something positive with comedy. It's something that, as a pretty angry teenager, I really gravitated towards, and so I would try to put my anger into humor. And so even today, when I'm angry, I'm most likely to turn it into something funny or humorous or try to exaggerate. In fact, I would go as far as saying that the reason I speak in hyperbole so much when I'm exaggerating for comedic effect when talking to people about books or whatever is due to Lewis Black. he influenced the way that I talk, even just down to even like phrases and stuff like that. So I was very, very excited to meet him. I went to his show, and then I waited outside the venue to meet him after, and there were these guys that were out there, and they knocked on his they knocked on his bus door, which I do not support. I think leave people alone. But the bus driver was like, "Oh, we're actually about to leave to go to the hotel. This is the hotel he's staying at. You can meet him there. He's eating right now." And so I was like, okay, if the bus driver says that we can follow him to the hotel, then that's what I'll do. So I had to drive to the hotel and meet the bus there. And then as soon as he came out, I was all like jittering and shaking and nervous and stuff. And I was like, "Oh my God, Lewis, you changed my life. Your comedy is so good to me." Like I was just fanboying out so much. And he was just, all very calm. He was just like, "Oh no, it's fine. Like, let's take a picture. Let's hang out." And to my absolute displeasure, he signed a black page with a blue marker, so you can barely see that he signed it, which kind of sucks, but I was too nervous to even notice that that's what was happening. I was very, very excited to meet Lewis Black and get his signature. The next book I have is Danny Trejo's memoir, Trejo. Danny Trejo is one of my favorite actors. I really, really like Danny Trejo. And when his book was coming out, NetGalley sent me a preview copy, and I really, really like this memoir. I tend to read a lot of memoirs, and they're usually fine to good, but I think this is a great memoir. I think Danny Trejo's life is so interesting. Where he started to where he's gone now is very fascinating and full of insight. The end of this book actually brought tears to my eye, which doesn't happen with memoirs very much, I can tell you. And so I went out and I pre-ordered the book, and I got a signed copy of it. Here's the signature there, and then see, I even got a nice certificate of authenticity for this one, which I don't have for any of my other ones. So maybe this is the only one that's actually real. I guess we'll never know. Next I have Spartacus the Gladiator by Ben Kane. This book is one of the only times in my life I've ever won something. I commented on his post on Facebook, and he was doing a competition to win this book, and I won, and he sent it to me. And since then we've actually talked quite a bit online. When my rabbit was sick, Ben, who used to be a vet, messaged me with some vet advice about my rabbit, which was very nice of him. And I actually ended up doing a written interview with him that I put over on Novel Notions. Ben Kane writes really good historical fiction, primarily set in Rome. He's branched out a little bit more lately. His current trilogy is on Richard the Lionheart. And Spartacus happens to be one of my favorite figures in history. I think he's endlessly fascinating. What we know about him makes him so interesting, and there's just enough gaps in his life that make him ripe for fiction, because you can fill in so many of the gaps, which makes for great historical fiction in particular. And I read this after watching the Spartacus TV show, which is one of my favorite shows of all time, and so it was interesting to see the differences between the two shows and how they interpreted different events and stuff like that. So yeah, this is a really good book. I would highly recommend checking out Ben Kane if you are interested in military historical fiction. So next I have The Reason You Walk and Go Show the World by Wab Kinew. Wab Kinew is an Indigenous Canadian that lives here in Manitoba. He is the current leader of the NDP political party. Before that, he was kind of well known as a speaker for human rights and stuff like that. And he released a children's book, Go Show the World, which is about shining a light on Indigenous heroes. And so he came to a local bookstore, and my wife and I went to meet him and got to chat with him for a few minutes. And he just seems like a very nice guy. This is his memoir, The Reason You Walk. I haven't read it yet, but I have heard good things. And Go Show the World has really nice art in it. Look at that. It's just like a nice little kid's book that's nice to look at. And I'm excited to show it to my kids one day when I have kids, and they can learn about some Indigenous heroes of Canada. This next book is heavy. It is very large, and it is Geddy Lee's Big Book of Bass. So I can't even hold that with one hand. This is a chunky boy. See, it's personalized to me. I met Geddy Lee at a Costco for this book. He came and did a signing when this book came out. It's a bunch of pictures of basses and stuff like that. Like, look at that. I'm not really into musical instruments. I bought it more for the collector's aspect and the fact that I wanted to meet Geddy Lee. And yeah, I just sat in line for a really long time to meet him. It was all through every aisle in the Costco. It was really weird. I kind of feel bad for the people that were there to buy food. But yeah, Geddy Lee was super nice. I only got to talk to him for 30 seconds, but I just told him that I love Rush and, all of the things that you normally tell someone when you're in a line for 30 seconds when you meet them. And yeah, so this book, I'm really happy that I own this book, because he only did 5 or 6 appearances for signings. So there's only a couple thousand people that have gotten it signed, I would assume, in the world, unless people are wandering out trying to find him to get him to sign it. So next I have a bit of a different case, and that is The Gunslinger by Stephen King. But before you go all being like, oh wow, he got Stephen King to sign a book, nay, good sir, I did not. I wish that I got Stephen King to sign my book. This book is signed by Dennis Haysbert, who plays Roland's dad, Stephen, in the film of this book. And the reason that it's signed by Dennis Haysbert is that I was hired as background in a movie, and I had no idea that Dennis Haysbert was in that movie. And when you're background, you have a lot of downtime, so I always bring a book, and I just happened to have been reading The Gunslinger that week. And so I brought this book with me, and we were up in the balcony of this like church scene. And so I was sitting there, reading the book while the scene was going on because I was in the deep, deep background. So I had the book on me while we were filming. And that is the only reason that I had the book. And then when we took a brief cut, I went down to the craft table to get something to eat. And Dennis Haysbert was there having some soup. And he was like talking to everybody, and he was taking pictures and stuff. And I had the book in my hand. And it's not even that it was a book. It was a book that he starred in an adaptation for. And so I was like, holy crap, what are the chances of this? So, I went up to him and I talked to him for a few minutes. I talked to him about like acting and stuff like that. And we took a picture, and then he signed this book. And so this is the only book that I own that is signed by somebody who's not the author. But I think that's pretty cool. If I could somehow get Stephen King to sign this book, that would be even better. Or Idris Elba. Man, if I got Idris Elba to sign this book, man, Idris Elba could sign anything. I just want to meet Idris Elba. I have a book that has just been sent to me by the author very recently, and that's Ben Galley's The Forever King. This is a self-published fantasy book that is now an SBFBO finalist, I believe, and I've heard really good things about this book. I'm very excited to read it. He dedicated it Imanesca and Revenge Awaits. I'm excited to find out what that means, but look at this cover. I really like this cover. It's simple but elegant, and it just draws you in. And so, thank you, Ben, for the book. I'm going to be sure to read it soon. And yeah, I'm very excited. I've heard that it has whales. You can sell me on any book with whales. The next two I have were both also sent to me by the author. This is The Veiled Throne by Ken Liu and Speaking Bones by Ken Liu as well. The final two books in the Dandelion Dynasty. Ken's wife Lisa found me on Instagram when I was like hyping up the series, and she offered to send me The Veiled Throne before release. I think Ken is a super fascinating, intelligent person, and this is becoming one of my all-time favorite series. If Speaking Bones lands the mark, which I have every faith that it will be one of my favorite completed series for sure. I absolutely love this world. I love how intelligently it is written and how Ken writes these complex dilemmas and complex stories of like how a nation is formed and how characters interact, and he just writes very complex worlds, and I just love it so much. And he dedicated both of these with very nice thoughts. So The Veiled Throne says, "To Kyle, may you tell the story you want to tell." And then he signed it. So yeah, that's The Veiled Throne. And then in Speaking Bones, the final book, he wrote, "To Kyle, may your stay in Dara be memorable and joyous. Do the most interesting thing. Thank you." And he signed it. That's Speaking Bones. I can't say enough good things about this. It's become a bit of a meme among the Discords and stuff that I'm in, where anybody mentions Ken Liu, they have to tag me because I'm the residential Ken Liu stan, but it is what it is. You guys should go read his books. Next, we have another book sent to me by the author recently, and that is Divinity's Twilight by Christopher Russell. I haven't heard too much about this book, but the stuff that I have heard has been mostly positive, and I've talked to Christopher online a few times. He seems like a very nice guy. I'm very excited to dive into his book, and he dedicated it. "How we rise is more meaningful than how we fall," and it's in quotes, so I have to assume that's a quote from the book, which I love that kind of stuff. Thank you so much for the book, Christopher. I can't wait to dig into it. Next, we have The Bat by Joe Nesbo. I've never read anything by Joe Nesbo. I've heard good things, but I just haven't tried them. But I actually originally bought this book as a birthday gift for my wife. She really likes the crime novels and stuff. And he was coming to town, and I was like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if I got her like a signed book from this author? And I went to his signing, and he had like a little speech. And he's a really interesting guy. He does a lot of different things. He was like a minor soccer league player in Sweden, and he was a musician, and he did all these things. So it was cool to, chat with him, and got the book signed. And then my wife tried this book, and she did not like it. She felt really bad that I went to the signing and she didn't end up liking it. But I didn't want to donate it or something because I was like, what if I really like this book? Then I have the signed book, so I've been meaning to read it, but I just haven't. So hopefully I can get around to it when I'm in the mood for like a light, quick read. Next we have Jay Baruchel's Born Into It, A Fan's Life. Jay Baruchel, you probably know from like Seth Rogen movies and stuff, and you know he does all those kind of Judd Apatow movies, and he wrote a book about being a hockey fan, and I don't like hockey. I did read this book after I bought it, and it was actually fine. It was good to get a perspective of somebody who really likes sports and what it means to them, because I don't really respond emotionally to sports. It just doesn't do anything for me. And so to read about why somebody really is impacted by sports and what a team means to them is interesting to me. But just because I don't really know anything about hockey, it didn't really resonate with me. But Jay did a signing around here, and I went to the signing and I talked to him. This is similar to the Geddy Lee one, where it was just very quick, in and out. He signed and then left, and he just signed to Kyle, hey man. But that was cool. I'm glad I got to meet him, even if it was brief. Now we're getting to the ones with bigger stories attached. So the next book is Zak Wylde's Bringing Metal to the Children. He drew a little guitar in there, he did a little drawing and the symbol for Black Label Society. So what happened with this one was Black Label Society came to Winnipeg, and I didn't want to get tickets. I was pretty broke at the time, but I really wanted to meet Zak Wylde, so I went and I waited outside all day by the back of the venue, and I like talked to all the roadies and stuff as they were coming in and out. So they knew me, they were cool with me. They're like, yeah, like he's fine. When Zak comes out, I'll make sure that he talks to him. Zak was taking a sweet time. I think I got there at like 11 a.m. and he probably came out at 5, so it's like a 6-hour wait, but I've met lots of musicians that way. It's just the name of the game. You just have to wait a long time sometimes, but it's usually worth it. If you come across a nice person, they're gonna take pictures, or they always like to meet fans for the most part. I haven't come across anybody that is rude or anything. Yeah, so he came out and he signed. He didn't do any pictures because he was in a rush, but he did take time to do these little doodles and stuff. And then right after he left, one of the roadies asked me to help him with something, and I helped him with something. And then he was like, hey, do you have tickets to tonight's show? And I didn't want to act like I had just been waiting for 5 hours and I didn't even have tickets to the show. So I was like, yeah, totally. Of course I have tickets to the show. And then he was like, okay, great. See you inside. And then he went inside. And afterwards I was like, oh, if I had said no, he was going to give me tickets to the show and I could have watched the show. So that was me being goofy. I didn't think about that. But I am very glad that I got to meet Zak Wylde. The next one I have is Kevin Hart's I Can't Make This Up, Life Lessons. He signed it to Kyle 2018. See there. I am a big Kevin Hart fan, especially more before he got humongously famous, like kind of when he was like a mid-tier comedian. And he came here for a show, and similar to the last story, as I was waiting outside the venue to meet him, and there was a hotel on like the next block, and we thought he probably was staying at that hotel, but we had no way of knowing. And so we're sitting outside the venue waiting, and then the van that he is in drives away and starts going towards that hotel. So we're all like, oh, great, he's coming right out. So we just book it down the street. This street has no sidewalks. We're in the middle of downtown, and we're just running at full speed down the open road. And I'm just like booking it, just like hightailing it. And I get to the front of the hotel, and I'm completely out of breath. And Kevin comes out, and he's like, hey, man, you want me to sign some stuff? And I'm just like... And so he signed the book, and I just like didn't talk at all. And then everybody else caught up to me, and then he started signing and taking pictures with everybody else. And then I caught my breath, and I wanted to get a picture. And the security guy didn't know that I was with all of these people, that they were all my friends. And so I tried to like get in with one of their pictures, and the security guy was like, no, you can't get in the picture. And I was too out of breath to tell him like, no, these are my friends. And I tried to get in the picture, and he's like, no, stay out. And then after they all took the picture, Kevin went inside the hotel, so I was the only one that didn't get a picture with him. But I did get the book signed, so it wasn't a total loss. I just thought it was funny that I ran so quickly to get there that I didn't pace myself, and then that's what happened. Next we have You're Making Me Hate You by Corey Taylor. This one is also personalized to Kyle, see, right there. What happened with this one is in 2015, I went on a road trip by myself through the U.S. It was like a 4-week trip where I just went to a bunch of concerts and did a bunch of stuff, and it was just like by myself. I did meet up with some family briefly. But one of the things that I did was I went to a signing that Corey Taylor did for his new book at Barnes & Noble in Minneapolis. And they take you into a basement of a Barnes & Noble or whatever, and you're waiting around. And I was near the back, and they're waiting for Corey Taylor to come in. And then all of a sudden, I'm just like waiting near the back, and I hear somebody ask me, wow, there's a lot of people here. Do you know who they're all waiting to meet? And then I turn and look, and it's Corey Taylor standing right next to me. He's making a joke, obviously. And so I was like, oh man, Corey. And then he like laughs and he just keeps walking. And then, he does a talk. Corey Taylor is a very personable human being, and he, answered everybody's questions. He told a bunch of amusing stories, and then he went through the line, and his line actually went pretty slowly. I did manage to talk to him, and it was just like, hey, like, Slipknot and Stone Sour changed my life. I love your music. Please keep making it. It means a lot to me. He's like, that means so much to me. This is why I do this. I'll always continue doing this. And, I'm sure that he obviously hears that every single day of his life, but he still made it feel like a very genuine compliment in the moment. So, yeah, Corey Taylor seems like a very nice dude, and I was very, very excited to meet him. And finally, this is my favorite book in my collection. It is the book that is most personally meaningful to me. If I had a house fire and I could only grab one book, I would grab this book. I really like that I have this book, and that is Slash's autobiography by Slash. He signed it 2019. So before I tell you the story about why this is so meaningful to me, it's important for you to understand the context of why I like this book so much. I originally bought a copy of Slash's autobiography when it first came out for my mom. I did not like music at the time. I wasn't really into rock music. I didn't know any musicians, and I just recognized this guy as, hey, that guy's in Guns N' Roses. My mom likes Guns N' Roses. I'll get her for this for Christmas. And she bought it, or she liked it, and she read it. And then she was like, you would really like this. You should read this book. And I was 13 at the time, I believe. And I was like, okay, sure. And I read this over Christmas break, and I just absolutely loved it. I fell in love with Guns N' Roses. I fell in love with rock music and just like the rock star mentality stuff. I actually finished the book, and then I immediately reread it. And it is still one of my favorite books of all time. I can directly relate that time reading this book to when I started really caring about music. I started listening to more albums. I started learning more about musicians. And it has become such a large part of my life that I couldn't even imagine what would have happened if I did not read this book at that time. There's two distinct paths of Kyle's life. And there's Kyle that did read Slash at that time and Kyle that read Slash at that time. And so it is just such a foundational part of who I became, even though it's just a memoir. Like, I think if I read this book now for the first time, I would think it was a good book. I still recommend it. I don't think it is bad. It is one of the best rock memoirs that I've ever read. But there's nothing revolutionary about the book itself. It was just my first experience with this type of book, with this type of lifestyle. I think Slash is a really cool person. He's my favorite guitar player still. All that being said, I have really liked Slash ever since. He's my favorite musician. And I've seen him live 4 times, once with Guns N' Roses and 3 times solo. And this last time, in 2019, happened to be his birthday, and I got front row tickets. It's the first time I saw him from the front row, so I was literally just so close to him while he was playing. And then, like 20 of us went out to the back or whatever and tried to meet him, and his security guard was like, absolutely not. He's not coming out. You guys should all go home. And so everyone thought he wouldn't come out, and then what ended up happening is somebody started singing Happy Birthday, and so all like 20, 25 of us just started singing Happy Birthday outside of the bus. And so he came right out, and then he was like, oh, thanks everybody, and he signed everything. I also got my Funko Pop signed. It's the only Funko Pop I own. I bought it specifically hoping that I could get it signed by him, and I did. And I was one of like 3 people to get a picture with him, because his security guy then got mad and was like, no pictures, anybody, but I had already gotten a picture. So yeah, I was just so stoked that I actually got him to sign it, and that he signed it on his birthday, and that this book was so meaningful to me. And just like being able to meet him in person, even for just a second, just be like, thank you for impacting my life this way, was just so meaningful to me. And so this is my favorite book in my whole collection, and I treasure it deeply. Alright, that was all my signed books. Thanks for watching this, I assume, very long video. Drop a comment down below and tell me what you think. Have you read any of these books? Do you have any signed books? What's your favorite book that you own? And does any of these make you jealous? I want to know your jealousy. If you feel jealous, let me know so that I can feel proud of myself for having these books and you don't have these books. And then immediately after, you can make me feel jealous by the undoubtedly cooler things that all of you own. Somebody's going to be like, I have the only copy of a Brandon Sanderson novel that anybody ever has, or something wild. I just wanted to share my collection with you guys. I'm really happy I have so many signed books. I really like signed stuff. So I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. Take it easy, everybody.